Hi, I'm Stuart Robinson. I'm a chiropractor and a golf biomechanics assessor here at Precision Golf. I've got David Hawkins with me here today. Seeing David kind of combines both of my roles as a chiropractor. David's had some back troubles, which we're going to talk more about, he's experienced issues with that over the years in relation to his golf. So we're looking at trying to make David more comfortable, but also try and improve his movement patterns. So he, like a lot of people, tends to find that he gets quite stiff in his mid-back. It means that he doesn't turn as freely and tends to get more armsy in his golf swing. I think that's fair to say, and you tend to get a bit more flicky, you find, David, as a result of that thoracic stiffness. And having worked in front of a computer in an office for much of your career, obviously that's a common pattern that we tend to find. David's quite fortunate in that obviously he's a big strong guy. He's got quite mobile hips, which helps him, but the fact that his mid-back is stiff does mean that he puts more tension on his lower back, and he also has quite tight hamstrings and tight calves, which can lead to some issues in his Achilles tendon, and he's had a bit of plantar fasciitis as well. So we've got a sort of head-to-toe look as far as David's concerned, from the point of view of loosening things up. So today we're just going to have a little bit of a recap. I know David's been away playing some golf in America, which has been very exciting. But you say you haven't had as much time to exercise and do the things that we'd been working on over the last month or so. So we'll have a bit of a recap and see where you're up to with that. So
basically my history is I've been seeing Stuart on and off for a few years now. I'm 61, a very keen golfer. I play probably twice a week. I've always had issues with rotating through the ball. Backswing's been okay, but all my coaches have pointed out that I need to rotate and compress the ball more. Stuart's helped identify that I'm fairly inflexible in the middle area. He's given me a series of exercises to do, to focus on, and it's helped my mobility. But as Stuart pointed out, I've been away for about a month, been playing golf in America, mainly in carts, but my history before that, prior to joining Precision Golf, I've been an office worker, so hence the lack of mobility and probably flexibility that I'd like to sort of see feeding into my game.
And you actually had some spinal injections, didn't you, at one stage, David?
No, but I basically had an issue, things with lower back and what have you, but it's been over the years a lower back problem being so tall. I'm 6'4", and I've also suffered from sort of quite tight hamstrings, so it's the flexibility issues, and if you don't do anything correct, it just creates problems.
And I think one of the other technical things that you were telling me previously was that you tend to straighten up into the golf ball a lot like this, so losing your spine angle, and something that's very familiar to a lot of golfers, their pelvis thrusting in towards the golf ball like this rather than rotating and clearing this way. Obviously that then means that there's more need for hand action, but that movement there is very strenuous, a lot of compression on the right side of the lower back and a lot of stretch through the left-sided muscles. So one of the other things that we've looked at with David is really trying to make sure that his core muscles are stronger than they were and that they've got better endurance so that they actually support his back better. If this muscular belt or corset around the spine helps to stabilize and support it better, obviously that's going to mean there's going to be less pressure on the joints and the discs, which is going to be beneficial in terms of David being able to play pain-free. And also we talk a lot about making sure that you get well warmed up before you go and play, and there's a specific routine that we have for David to try and adhere to, and just spend 5 minutes or so before he goes to hit a few shots in the net, rather than doing what a lot of golfers will do, go and have a quick coffee and then walk straight out to the first tee. So we'll try and avoid that, and then you're much less likely to experience any problems with the back, and move as well as you can from the first hole, rather than finding that it takes 4, 5, 6 holes to actually get into things and start playing properly.
Yeah, exactly. And as Stuart says, when I don't warm up enough, I tend to flick my arms rather than rotate through. And when I'm playing badly, my friends say I sway off the ball. Again, that's down to mobility rather than turning. I'm just moving because giving way rather than doing what the body should be doing.
Absolutely right. I mean, you're a 3 or 4 handicapper, David?
5.2, and that's probably about, I've been down to about 5, but I'm probably more realistically an 8, but within...
Okay, okay. Well, a good golfer
exactly.
at Walton Heath, you can play golf, you've played for a long time, but obviously if your body's stiff, you as a good player who's played for a long time, you know where the top of your backswing is. Now, the body's remarkably good at finding the path of least resistance. So if you're finding, oh, well, no, that's not the top of my backswing, but you've maxed out your thoracic rotation
I just keep
here,
going all sway.
Exactly. Either lift your arms or you'll actually move this way and change your spine angle.
It's like, I go like that rather than just stop. And then rotate. So it's like that because my back won't turn.
So we'll often see that in sequence. The first thing might be that people will notice that their head rises up because their spine angle's actually changing so that they can literally get the club a bit further this way. The next thing you'll often see is the arms starting to lift, and then you can often see the elbows flexing. So yeah, if people are stiff, and they say, oh, well, my coach has been trying to get me into a better backswing position, and we just look at things like that seated thoracic rotation, often we'll find, well, they simply don't have enough range, and so the body's going to find the path of least resistance and another way of doing it. So we'll have a look at that now. So David, if you have a seat on the bench here for me, and we're just going to pop this contraption onto David's shoulder. So this gives me a digital and accurate reading as to how much range of movement that David has in his mid-back here. So we're going to assess the amount of rotation that he has. So if you can just cross your arms across your chest for me there, David, that's lovely. And what I'd like you to do, just keep facing directly in front of you there. That's it, that's good. And in a moment, I'm going to get you to keep just focusing your eyes on that post and then turn around to your right. So hold still for a moment for me. That's it, that's good. And now you can turn to your right. Good, okay, great stuff. And then back again, David. And we'll check that again.
Do again,
give me one moment, we'll just recalibrate. And yes, away you go for me. Fabulous, okay. So getting over 55 degrees now. So when we first tested this, David actually only had 40 degrees. So whereas he can, if you just show me turning again, David, you were stopping around about there. Now if you do the rest of your movement, you can keep going quite a bit further now, which is really good to see. So let's just check that that's now symmetrical. So you may feel like you're not at your fittest as you described to me earlier on, because you've been away and
having a lovely holiday.
Having a lovely holiday and playing golf in carts and things like that. So, but still, the good news is you haven't lost those gains that you made. So, or certainly, absolutely not completely. So keep looking at the post in front of you there. That's it, and then turn to the left, please, keeping your eyes facing straight on. Superb. Okay. That's really good, David. I'm just going to ask you to keep your shoulders parallel because you started to side bend and laterally flex your spine, which gives you a bit more movement. So it's a little bit of a cheat, as we said, the body finding the path of least resistance. So I want you to keep your shoulders level for me so we get an accurate test on this. So if you can turn to the left again for me, keeping the shoulders level. Superb. Okay, very good. All right, so getting into the 60s in range of movement there, which is really excellent.
Interesting, it's more one way than the other.
Yes.
And the way you probably think you don't want to do, because if you're going that way, you think you would want to rotate more that way, but
Well, that's true. I mean, none of us are perfectly symmetrical. We've all got one side that's more mobile and a direction that we generally find it's easier to turn in. But the fact is you were 40 to 45 degrees in both directions when we first tested this. So getting up to 55 and then up to early 60s, turning to the left today, that looks really good. Obviously, if we can loosen up that right rotation a little bit more, that's going to help free up your backswing again. So let's look at some of the things that we want to try and do there. So why don't we start out on the mat here, David?
On my back?
On all fours, and we're going to do the cat. So we're just going to arch, doing cat camel just to loosen up this area of your back. So arching up this way, chin towards your chest, and then back down again. And this is simply trying to get David's spine just warmed up and loosened up. So you did all of that. I know you're not absolutely cold, David, but the fact that you had that range of movement before we've even been through the warm-up routine and the program really shows that you have improved in that range, and obviously that's then going to help your lower back.
Yeah.
And I'll just do a recap for you. When we look at your spine, David, obviously, if this is the back of the spine here, you can see the lower joints, the lumbar facet joints, are basically vertical. So there's lots of scope for forwards, backwards movement, but these joints really don't rotate much at all.
Yeah.
As you come higher up into the back, into the thoracic spine here, you can see that those joints are much more horizontal. So there's much more scope for rotation there. And then up into the neck, only 7 cervical vertebrae here. You can see those joints are near enough horizontal, and we can turn through 90 degrees. So the important thing to remember is that this area of the spine really isn't meant to rotate much.
Yeah.
But if we're stiff in the shoulders and in the mid-back, or stiff in the hips underneath, then unfortunately the area in the middle gets put under too much rotational stress.
Yeah.
And if we're doing that repeatedly, and obviously doing that, trying to create more than 100 miles an hour of club head speed, the lower back often suffers. So if we can make sure that your core muscle endurance is really good, we saw that your ratios weren't bad.
Yeah.
Your abdominal endurance was actually somewhat better than your lumbar erector spinae endurance. So we're working on building that up, and also making sure your oblique and quadratus lumborum muscles that are important for side bending and for twisting are as good as possible. Then that's really going to help to provide the support we need here.
Okay.
So that's the other side of things, as well as the mobility, but that's the crux of why we're trying to make sure you're nice and loose through this area. Good. Okay, now we're going to do the thread the needles. So we're going to go right hand underneath. That's it, that's good.
How far down do you want me to, or how far do you want me to go?
That's good. So you should just start
Not
to feel,
overextend it, sort of.
That's right. So I don't want you dipping down too much, but we want to get you feeling like there's a little bit of stretch in your latissimus muscles on the right side here, without getting compression in the AC joint at the front of the shoulder on the right. And then turn your chest and the right arm up towards the ceiling, but still looking down at where the golf ball would be. That's it. So we really try and get that rotation. And then go underneath again for me, David. That's it. And then rotating up, right thumb towards the sky, still looking down at where the golf ball would be. Good. Keep that going. Good. Try not to extend your chest and shoulders up too much.
Okay.
So don't straighten your spine angle, in other words, just focus on turning. That's lovely. Good. Well done.
It's quite easy to cheat on these things.
It is, absolutely.
Unconsciously, not deliberately.
That's right, and that's where you need someone just observing what you're doing, especially the first few times, and then having the odd recap. Good. Okay. And we're going to do some bridges with you lying on your back. I'm just going to put this support here that supports the curve of your lower back down, so you can lie on that and then have your head just there. There we go. Bend your knees for me, David. And we're going to do some bridging. So up like this, that's good, and then back down. Have your arms back this way, so we just want to open out your chest and stretch out where we can get a little bit tight across the chest, whilst gently activating your gluteal muscles, your buttock muscles, and the quadricep muscles a bit as well. Good. Is that all pretty comfortable there, David?
Yeah, it's fine.
Excellent.
As you say, if you do this on your own, you do it wrong, it defeats the purpose, really.
Well, it does. It does. I mean, certainly the first few occasions you need some guidance, and obviously, of course, the reason that we did a 2-hour assessment for you initially was to work out where your strengths and weaknesses are. You know, there's no point in you just doing a generic set of exercises that aren't specific to you. I mean, some of them could be helpful for you, some of them may be detrimental, and others may not make that much difference to you. So by knowing where your strengths and weaknesses are, you can obviously work specifically on those and make sure that you're working on the right things for you. It's same as working on the golf swing. There's no point in doing someone else's swing drills You've got to do the ones that are appropriate to you as a player. Good. Okay, that's fine. Great. Let's do some Supermans now, some bird dogs. That's it. And then back in with the leg again.
Do you want me to alternate or just keep
You can
on one
alternate,
side?
that's fine. And I'm just going to pop this foam roller on your back just to act a bit like a spirit level. And that's just going to encourage you to stay nice and stable and really engage your glute muscles, so you're not just listing your pelvis from one side to the other. That's obviously always the cheat, as it were. Ooh. Okay, don't worry. It's there for the feedback. That's the idea. That's good. And it doesn't have to be absolutely stock still and perfectly stable, but trying to engage through there obviously helps. And there's just a little bit more tilting and unleveling of your pelvis when you're stabilizing on the left buttock and the right leg is extending. So here you're really nice and stable.
My left leg is weaker than my right leg.
Yeah,
historic knee injuries, and I'm right-footed anyway. So
Yes, we found that. So there's just a little bit more shifting of your pelvis there. So if you can try and keep, if we do that one side again.
The left side?
Yeah, the left side again, and just
so
try and stay.
No, so the left
that's
side.
it. So try and stay nice and stable there. That's better, David. Yeah. That's it. So you're not swinging your pelvis off to the left so much.
Yeah.
We need you to really engage those glutes. Fine. Okay, let's get those glute muscles engaging a bit more now. Let's do some monster walking. So all we're going to do, standing up into a nice squat position for me, David, and then just side striding like this. So it's really going to get your glute muscles firing up and working. That's perfect. Good. Great stuff. That's it. Keeping your chest reasonably tall. That's perfect. Good. Can you feel your leg and your glute muscles starting to work a little bit there, David?
Yeah.
Terrific. That's it. Staying nice and low, almost like you're walking along a corridor with a low ceiling. That's very good. And then back you come again. Good. Great. And rest. Have a seat. Slip the band off. So obviously what we're doing here is really just activating and warming up these muscles. We can do more strenuous activities later in the session. We'll do some harder exercises, but we're looking just to get the key muscles fired up and working. So now let's do some bent over rows, David. So we're really going to get your glute muscles working, and then your back muscles. So the rhomboids and the lower fibers of your trapezius muscles up here, but also just in holding your position here, you can probably see the back muscles in my back here having to actually work just to hold me in this position. So from there, we're just going to pull in that way, like that. All right. So for a lot of people, they can find that deadlifting's quite strenuous on the back, and we see quite a lot of injuries in the clinic from people having done deadlifts inappropriately. So if you're going to do those, make sure you see a good local personal trainer, or see a professional, an expert to show you how to do those things correctly. But for certain people, deadlifts may not just be the best exercise for them, but there are lots of alternatives. Obviously, strength training can be really useful for the back, but we've got to make sure it's done at the right time, make sure that people are well warmed up and that they've got the tolerance in their back to do those things. It's good, David. Can you feel that all working down through here?
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. Feel it in your glutes a little bit as well?
Yeah.
And obviously today, once we've got you really nice and warm at the end of the session, we'll be in a good position to be able to work more on your hamstring and your calf muscle flexibility. And that's going to mean that it's easier for you to clear and rotate freely through the golf ball if you've got more flexibility in your hamstrings, and also just walking the golf course is likely to feel more comfortable as well. Good. Couple more, David.
Okay. One more.
Super. Okay, that's great. I'll take that. Now we're going to get your abdominals fired up and working. So what we're going to do here, I just want you to go into a nice strong position. rotate your chest and shoulders like that.
Yeah, this is one I find quite tricky because I end up swaying. If
Yes, exactly. So when we rotate, we really then engage the abdominal muscles. But if you just lean, obviously that's a cheat. Yeah, yeah.
Right, so
that's it. So I want your sternum. Imagine you've got a laser beam coming out from your sternum here, and you're going to swing that round to face towards me, David. That's it. Good. Okay. And just hold for a couple of seconds facing me. Can you feel those muscles working through here? Brilliant. Okay. That's great. Good.
I think it helps you focus on using your feet as well.
Absolutely.
Correctly.
Yeah, that's right. So you actually really can feel the pressure through the floor, through the mat doing this. And obviously we're trying to coil up some of that pressure, and then we're going to unwind into that when we come through in the golf swing. So yeah, absolutely, we want to get that feeling of using the ground effectively. And the other thing with this exercise is, you notice David will naturally just swing and open his hips a bit here. So
yeah, I sort of naturally go like that in the golf swing rather than rotating.
Exactly. So rather than tilting or sliding his hips, he's just naturally rotating his pelvis a bit. And of course, that's going to help him to get to a fuller backswing position, but it also means there's going to be less stress on his lower back here. If he tries to keep his hips stock still and then just turn like that without moving the hips, then there's going to be more stress, more rotational stress on his lower back. Good. Okay.
The other side?
Going the other way. Yeah. That's it. So keep that little bit of hip hinge for me, David. So a little bit more forward. That's it. That's good. Excellent. Well done. Good. If you feel you need to turn that left foot out slightly just to give you a bit more rotational clearance, that's fine. I mean, we know your hips are pretty mobile, so that's not a big issue.
It doesn't feel as strong and as natural in this direction, but obviously that's the challenge.
Yes. When we know that your left leg and your left glute muscles are not as strong on this side, when we do various single leg exercises, David always tends to struggle more on that side. Good. Well done. Okay, David. Now, if we just do very short range, are you happy just to do a little?
I could try. I'm not very good at these balance ones, as you know.
I know, I know. So let's start
try that. So it's like just straight out?
Exactly. Arms out in front, other leg back behind you. That's as far as we need to go. Good. And then just back up again, David. Good. Well done.
This is what I've found over the years has dramatically decreased, but they all say a balance test is an indication of your natural age, isn't it?
It is. Well, there are three facets to balance. We've got obviously the inner ear, so the vestibular system, as it's called, that actually feeds back to the brainstem and is almost the central processing of balance. We've then got the visual information coming in from our eyes. So obviously if you shut your eyes and you try and stand on one leg, it's much harder than with your eyes open. And then we've got what's known as the proprioceptive system. So all of the feedback from all of the sensory receptors in your feet and ankle are then feeding information back up to your brainstem, and that's all being calibrated. So the good thing about doing training is that system is very trainable. So whereas, yes, over time it's true, unfortunately, the sensory acuity of the inner ear, the vestibular system, does diminish a bit, you can make up for that by really making sure that proprioceptive system exactly is in tune.
Same leg or?
Yeah, you can switch to the other side now.
Okay.
Okay, so as we see a little bit more lateral wobble with David's knee here, as he struggles a little bit more with this left side. You're doing well though, that's good.
But you can see historically, but muscle-wise, that's more muscle there than that one, because my weaker leg.
Yeah, so there's a bit more wasting of this muscle here, so that the vastus medialis there, and obviously not quite so much in the lateralis there either. So yeah, there's a bit of difference there. But again, working on these exercises, we'll find that that will improve.
That's the one I've had historically had issues popped out quite a few times, and I've had an arthroscopy on it before.
Right. So you had a dislocation of the patella. Yeah, of the kneecap. Okay. So let's make this a bit more golf specific now, David.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you to stay nice and stable, and then just gently try and get some rotation going like this. All right. So if you just go out like that and just tip the wings of the aeroplane, so to speak. This is the hip aeroplane, so just a small version.
This is where I find it a real challenge, losing my balance.
Let's start out with a nice small range of movement. So get that left leg back behind you, and just stay stable for a moment.
Yeah.
And now just gently work your way down. That's far enough. And then going back the other way.
Yeah, I find that a real struggle.
That's all right, that's all right.
I've always found this one an issue. I think it's being so big and tall.
It is hard, it is hard. But when we've had you doing more regular training, obviously you've been able to get into it. So we'll get you back there again. That's fine, that's fine.
Let's try that again.
Sometimes what people will do is try and actually just lock the knee out and they won't flex. So if you can manage to keep a bit of bend and actually still make the turn and the balance, then that's great. You're doing well. And actually with each repetition here, David, you're getting
more
better.
confident.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's coming back again.
Yeah.
Good, okay. So what we're going to do now, a rotation on the ball. So I'm going to get you to lie on the ball here, hands out in front of you, and we're going to rotate this way. So obviously the good thing about this, David, is you can't change your spine angle and lean because you'll roll off. Absolutely. So yeah, we're going to feel like the ball just gently rolls underneath you, but you're staying nice and stable through your legs and your hips. Okay. So you're going to feel point of contact from top of the waistline of your shorts up to your shoulder blades, hands out in front of you at sternum height. Or you just keep looking at the same point on the ceiling for me. And that's it. So you can gently feel that the ball rolls underneath you and you're just doing that nice windscreen wiper action. That's it. And you'll find your arms get closer and closer to parallel with the ground as you get warmed up there. Well done, David. That's it.
I can feel my body wanting to try and cheat on this one.
Yes, yes. And unfortunately, obviously, because you're on the ball there, you can't cheat. And so it is a challenge, but you're doing well. Okay, good. That's it, and arms back this way, David, and we're just going to lift opposites.
So it's like
good, well done, yeah.
This is coordination city.
Yes, absolutely, you're doing well, that's good. So this is obviously helping to really engage your abdominal muscles, but you've got to engage through your leg muscles and your glute muscles on the stabilizing side here.
You've basically got to compensate for the weight movement, haven't you?
Absolutely right, yeah. And we're trying to stay pretty centered on that roller. Good, well done. That's it.
Ooh.
Don't worry. And rest, David. Okay, and then have a stand up for me.
So start like that.
That's it. So you're going to rotate your chest a little bit more towards where the band is anchored and then push off and rotate. Good. That's it. Well done, David. Good. So a little bit more rotation. Get that left hip working back behind you a bit more and try and feel like you really keep your chest down and sort of over where the golf ball would be.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah. Because obviously that's the antithesis of in your swing,
you end up swaying,
sliding,
and you slice,
and straightening your spine angle up. So we're trying to get you to rotate your left hip behind you,
rather than
work the left
slide,
hip, work the left shoulder back behind you as well. That's it. And so it's a powerful rotational movement rather than a sliding movement of the hips and a straightening of the spine angle. That's better. Good. Brilliant. Okay, swap sides. That's it again. So get that little squat, turning slightly towards where the band is anchored. So almost a bit of a backswing, in other words, and then push off. That's it. And you can still push off that left foot, David. So that's it. Good. Keeping that dynamism. That's good. And obviously we can make this increasingly more powerful and more dynamic, and even bringing in some jumps with these sorts of movements. Great, and then we're going to do the reverse. So if you take the band in your right hand, for camera purposes I'll demonstrate in my left, but a bit like starting an old-fashioned lawnmower, as you remember, David, we were going to go here and then
up, yeah,
rotate up and out. So again, it's a pulling action, but we're working the rotation.
You want me to do that with my right arm, yeah?
That's so.
So like that, go like that, or
no. So it's going to be a pull with the left. Yep. That's it. Facing this way and then up and out that way. There you go. That's it. So rotate your hips and your chest. Good. You can have the left arm a bit lower, just so it's not hitting you in the neck. That's it. Really rotate that left hip back behind you. There we go. And sometimes, just as a bit of a feel, David, we want you working around this here. So you're not going to bump into it and knock it over. There's no lateral slide. It's all rotation. That's it. That's good. So if you can manage to work yourself around that without sliding and knocking it over, so much the better. Good. Okay. And then on the other side. That's it. So getting into that nice squat position, turn your chest to face the anchor point of the band, and then up and out. Really good. That's it. So you don't necessarily need a huge amount of equipment. A few bands can be potentially all you need to have quite a good functional golf-specific exercise program. Great, well that was a good session, David. We're obviously going to do a bit more, but you did very well there. So it was good to see that although you'd been feeling stiff and you haven't had the opportunity to do all of the exercise that you may have wanted to while you're on holiday, you certainly haven't lost that improvement in the thoracic rotation that obviously we said is so important for taking away the strain in your lower back. And if we can work on keeping you nice and strong and stable in your core and your trunk muscles, and there's good endurance in the lower back, that's obviously really going to help. Yeah. And then in terms of your hamstring and Achilles, well, if we can work on strengthening some of those muscles but keeping your hamstrings nice and flexible, that's going to make walking the golf course much easier. Yeah. But I'm sure a lot of golfers at home can very readily sympathise with the problems that you've had with your back, David. I've had problems with my back over the years, and that's why I do the job that I do, and I practice what I preach and do similar sorts of exercises. So I think for those viewers at home that have back problems or spinal or hip problems, obviously if you can think about just doing a simple warm-up of loosening up the joints, warming up the muscles, and getting the ranges of movement that you want and the sorts of movement patterns that you need in the golf swing before you go and play, obviously that's going to be very helpful. And then if you're doing some other exercise that's appropriate to your fitness level or your injury status, that's really going to help you as well. Obviously the best thing to do there is to make sure that you consult with an expert who really knows about any injuries that you may have, and they've got a good understanding of that, but also a good understanding of golf and a good understanding of how to train people in golf and exercises that are likely to be appropriate. I hope you enjoyed the session today, and please don't forget to subscribe to the Precision Golf channel.